Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of the Screen to Screen Halloween special. My name is Justin. I'm your host for this exciting episode, and we are now up to the most recent trilogy of Halloween films. So the first one is just simply titled Halloween, released in 2018. And what they did with this was they essentially said, okay, this movie takes place 40 years after the original film. So Michael Myers comes to Haddonfield, terrorizes the town in 1977, 1978. And then 40 years later, we pick up with that story. What's been going on for the last 40 years? So it's a cool reboot. Jamie Lee Curtis returns to sort of star in this latest trilogy. I've seen this one a couple of times. I really like it. So let's get into it, and let's finish this thing out with Halloween from 2018. So I'm pushing play now on my 4K Blu-ray, and here we go. Don't forget, the unauthorized reproduction or distribution of this copyrighted work is illegal. So don't pirate things, folks. Just go, find it somewhere for legally. All right, so we're just getting these piracy warnings, and this motion picture has been rated R by the Classification and Rating Administration. All right, so it's starting up. Okay, now we've begun the film. We're getting the Universal Studios Globe intro. So it's been about 10 years. 10 years of filmmaking innovation and change and quality improvements and stuff. So we go from basically 2008, 2009 to 2018. So we'll kind of see how things sort of shift and change a bit over time. We get these neat little CG intros, Universal, Miramax. Kind of get some moody music going here. Sort of set the stage. And Blumhouse, which is like a new kind of horror publisher. They do a lot of contemporary horror stuff. They produced this. Blumhouse. And we get the classic title lettering, the orange with the black screen, Universal Pictures, Malik Akkad. If you remember, Mustafa Akkad was the original. In association with Rough House Pictures. And we start with a ticking clock. The second hand slowly ticking around, and a close-up of eyes, patience, looking off into the distance, a slow spinning fan blade. And we see a patient sort of holding a pencil, sort of staring at the wall. We're clearly in some sort of sanitarium, some sort of asylum, some sort of rehab clinic. And we see a doctor sort of signing a sheet. The doctor has this strange little pen that has sort of like a brain and a spinal cord on it. And we keep cutting back to this one person's eyes. We see some TV screens, some security monitoring, a security desk. And we kind of hear this doctor like subtly we sort of hear him talking. We can't quite make out what he's saying. And then someone starts a record. And some sort of old-timey music is kind of playing. And we see this doctor hug one of his patients. And it looks as though the eyes that we have been zooming in on is the eyes of this visitor to Smith's Grove Sanitarium. She's there with a colleague, and they've got some recording equipment. And they're talking about a particular patient here who has not uttered a word. Dr. Sartain greets these two visitors, and they're hopeful for the opportunity. They're hoping to meet this one particular patient that the state's kind of lost interest in over the years because Michael has been so silent. So Dr. Sartain was a student of Dr. Loomis before he passed away, and he kind of took over the study of Michael Myers' psychosis. And Dr. Loomis was the only one who ever saw Michael in the wild, as Dr. Sartain says, and Loomis was the only one who came to the conclusion that Michael is just simply pure evil. This is a cool scene. They're kind of outside in this courtyard, and it's kind of a long wide shot of some of these patients out in this big courtyard, and Michael Myers is just sort of standing there. Dr. Sartain is like, Myers is aware. He knows what he's doing. He was watching as you came in. He directs the journalist to tie his untied shoelace, and they bring him over to sort of where Michael Myers is standing. I really like this, like, I don't know, there's like an agoraphobic almost like sense to this scene. Like it's just this huge open space you'd think would feel safe, but the presence of Michael Myers makes it feel unsafe. And so they sort of say hello, and he's just a guy, older guy. We don't quite see his face. He has kind of a beard. And the journalist just wants to know more about Michael and about that night, about who was involved, and his colleague is just recording the conversation. And he steps just up to this like little yellow line, the tip of his shoe just over the edge of it. And Sartain kind of nods and says, like, it's okay. So he borrowed something from his friend at the AG's office. And he reaches into his bag, and we start to hear some sort of piano notes play. And he pulls out the mask, and he holds it up. And as though sensing it, Michael kind of twitches. He kind of turns for a second, and is that the guy that's the guy from the next one. The guy that guy with the umbrella here in this scene, I think is an important character in the next film. But the inmates, I don't know, everyone's getting agitated, scared, something, I don't know. They're all kind of starting to freak out as the journalist is kind of holding this Michael Myers mask up to Michael Myers. He's saying the mask is a part of you. He's just goading him on. Say something. The inmates are screaming. Sirens are blaring. That's a cool scene. And he screams, "Say something!" And then the Halloween title comes up with the music real hard. And I love this intro. This intro is really cool. So we start with like this smashed, decayed pumpkin. And it kind of regrows itself. Like, so it's a reverse. It's like a rebuilding, right? So I think that's a cool image for this reboot, right? This sort of like sequel, right? Like it's been gone for 40 years. It's been dead, dormant, decayed. And now it's like coming back, right? The pumpkin kind of comes back. So again, another clever take on the pumpkin intro screen, which I love. I always appreciate these intros. This one's a little quicker than some of the older ones. They had to shave off some time, I guess. But so it's cool. It's kind of seeing the pumpkin like regrow and rebuild itself and sort of come back to life, right? There it is. Unmelted. I also love, like, the thing I love about that particular pumpkin is that it's very, like, you can tell, like, they just did one big cut for the nose and the mouth. Like, you can imagine the knife, right? Like, I think that's what's so evocative about that particular style of pumpkin carving is like you can see the knife in your mind, in your imagination. And I love how it just kind of fades. The pumpkin itself fades away, and we just get black, orange, glowy eyes, nose. And it almost, the eye itself, to me, looks like a silhouette of Michael Myers. So it's almost like that image of him holding, and the nose is the knife there. It's a really cool moment. All right. It's just like the original starts off. White letters, black screen, Haddonfield, Illinois. And so these journalists have now they've left the facility, and they are on the next step of their quest. They're going to go track down Michael Myers' counterpart, Laurie Strode. Fettered by their own fear and hatred of one another. So they arrive at Laurie Strode's house, which has a giant sign, "Access has been denied." And so they're going to try to bribe her with money. So they kind of buzz. So the voice says, he says, "We're looking for Laurie Strode." They're making a podcast. Investigative journalists. And she's just not responding to. So they offer her $3,000, and without a word, the gate opens. And they enter into the Laurie Strode compound. Some rusty bells kind of dangling, some big lights everywhere. There's lights everywhere, lights on the roof, cameras everywhere. Yeah, it's a pretty standard kind of like isolated farmhouse, like a little front porch. It's a nice little house. And they kind of walk up, ring the doorbell, and kind of wait for a moment. And then we get a shot of Laurie unlocking the front door, and there's just locks, like 4 or 5 sets of locks, so many locks. And then a chain, door. And it's an interesting kind of take on Laurie. She is sort of isolated herself, bunkered in, right? And they let the reporters in, and she lets them in, and Aaron. So they'd like to re-examine incidents with an unbiased lens, and so they think there's a lot to learn, and Laurie's like, "No, there's no insights, there's nothing to learn here. There's no discoveries to be made." Is he real? And so they're talking about the boogeyman thing again. He says, "Is he real?" So Aaron doesn't believe in the boogeyman, and Laurie's like, "Oh, okay. Well, you should." Jamie Lee Curtis is good in this scene. Like, her face is really good. They want a glimpse inside his mind. And Laurie is just like confused by this. She's like, my story? He's murdered 5. Laurie's like, twice divorced on a basket case, and like, so Laurie is clearly aware that they're transferring him, and she's ready for it. So we get some exposition here, and Laurie lost her daughter when she was 12 as an unfit mother, and she never regained custody, and so she's had a hard life, right? Like, again, this idea of the trauma, right? So he won't. Aaron thinks that he'll talk to Laurie. They want her to come with them and like talk to Michael Myers, and Laurie's like, "Are you out of your mind?" They don't understand, right? Like, and she just opens the door, just not a word. She just says, "Give me the money and go. I'll accept my payment. Get out." This guy, he's getting really into going after the rats. So this actress is I don't know her name, but she's in some other stuff, and so we get this like family breakfast scene like we get in a lot of these movies. Set up the family. Everything's fine. Everybody's happy. And we see Allison here for the first time. And they're talking about Lonnie, and they're talking. Oh, and Ray gets snapped by the mousetrap. I got peanut butter on my penis? How did he get it on his penis? And this dad is like kind of trying to be funny, cool dad, but he's not really working. It's not really working for him. And Allison is curious about if her mom invited grandmom to the thing tonight. Agoraphobia. See, I mentioned that earlier, right? That's a callback to that opening scene, right? That huge open space. And there's a reason they chose to do that opening shot in that huge open space, right? Because traditionally this film relies on claustrophobia, but we get this mention here of agoraphobia, which is the opposite of claustrophobia. It's fear of open spaces. So there's clearly some tension here, like Allison's mom doesn't want her to be in a relationship with her grandmother. And she's commenting on how her family is sort of traumatized by Halloween time, and they're just walking to school, just like in the original film, right? Teenagers walking around Haddonfield, and they're sort of talking about the events of the first film and the trauma that Laurie has gone through. So I think this guy is sort of tapping into the commentary of this whole entire trilogy. Is like he's basically saying like that the world is much worse now than it was in the 70s, and like a couple people getting murdered by a guy with a knife is tame compared to the stuff that's going on in the world today, right? So that thread continues throughout this entire series, and he sort of blows up the pumpkin with a firecracker, and they run off, and then we get a quick cut to the high school hallway, and Allison and her boyfriend are talking about their costume, their Bonnie and Clyde costume. They must roll as one. And they're just kind of talking and making some plans, and they flirt a little bit and kiss a little bit. And then this guy, he's in some stuff too. He's like, I don't know, this actor, the friend, like the silly like confident friend guy. They're gonna do it. Yeah, they're just goofing around, friends goofing around, teenagers doing their teenager thing. All right, we get this classroom scene again, just like in the original, right? Classic classroom scene. You get this scene several times throughout these films. Allison looks out the window, and this time she sees her grandmother standing across the street looking at her, just like Michael Myers was looking at Laurie all those years ago. That's another cool kind of flip, reversal. And Laurie gives Allison the money from the reporters. She says, "Fuck college. Go to Mexico." And Laurie is just kind of this like badass grandmom in this, and she says, "Don't worry about your mom; she'll get over it." And Allison asks her why she can't get over the whole boogeyman thing and all the hiding, and it's all for nothing, she says. So Laurie, it's an interesting, she sort of sacrificed her relationship with her daughter so that her daughter could be safe and prepared for the horrors of the world, right? And Allison's urging her to get over it. And then we cut to Laurie just like target practice, preparation, right? She's like a doomsday prepper. She's got guns, she's got bullets, she's got aim, she's got a knife. She's ready to go. She's just been like 40 years in the making, right? Like, she is ready for this guy. It's a cool take. It's a really cool. I really think it's a cool idea, right? Like, I really like what they did with Laurie in this trilogy. So we cut back to the journalists, and they're in their hotel room, and they're working on their story, listening to their recordings. We get some voice lines. And Loomis is urging them to death penalty, and or maybe it's actually Sartain. No, it's Loomis. It needs to die. So Loomis is very adamant that Michael Myers cannot be kept alive, that he needs to die, that it needs to go away. They need to check the vitals, incinerate the body, all this stuff. But they're transferring him. They're transferring him tonight, and Laurie is prepared. She's ready. She's got her weapons. She's monitoring the situation. She knows what's coming. She knows what's going to happen. And she's scared. She's drinking. She's, preparing herself for the inevitable. Jamie Lee is really good in this, I will say. So Sartain is going along here, riding in the transfer bus, and Laurie's just standing there waiting, watching. Or, well, not standing. She's in her car outside the facility. And the transfer bus rolls out, and she just watches it go, and she's sort of on the verge of tears. She's clearly And as she screams, there's like a silhouette of someone like coming at her. So you can clearly see how traumatized she is, how tragic her life has been because of these events that she went through as a teenager. Tripping balls out in the woods with his dad, Lonnie. Remember Lonnie? Bonnie and Clyde. So they're at like Olive Garden or something. They're having a dinner out together. And Allison confronts her mom about Laurie coming to dinner tonight because Allison wanted her there, and there she is. And Laurie introduces herself as the grandmother. And Laurie just kind of grabs the wine and starts chugging the wine. So there's tension here. It's awkward. They're kind of annoyed and angry, and Laurie sits down and she's just kind of crying, and she's traumatized and upset, apologizing. And she's just sort of talking to her family about... She's cool. She calls them the shape. It's good. And it's a good scene. I mean, it really shows kind of like the dynamics here. And the relationship between Laurie and her daughter pays off later. But like Allison goes after her, and just to make sure that Laurie's all right. I love there's something about the wind in these movies. It's always windy. I think the wind is scary somehow. I don't know. I like the wind in these. That's a nice shot of Laurie just kind of putting her head on Allison's shoulder there, and it's a lot, This is like Halloween time, right? And it's hard. And now we get some images of how Allison's mom was raised. Laurie taught her how to fight, how to shoot a gun, had nightmares about the crazy basement in their house. Social. So she spent her whole life trying to get over the paranoia and neuroses that her grandmother has projected. It's not your job to save her. And Allison's kind of confused and upset. Yeah, so this is a really good scene. Like, this kid wanting to be a dancer and still like wanting to please his father, even though his father's like terrible and like doesn't support anything he's about. Again, this dynamic, like having this type of a kid and this type of a dad who just, why don't you like hunting, son? Like, this is the real thing that's scary, right? Like, I love that this movie like tackles these sort of contemporary social issues about how parents and children can't connect to one another, about how, there are things that older generations of people don't understand, how there are things that are these tensions in these families, and like people feeling like, they're not allowed to be themselves, they're not allowed to express who they are. Like, these are the contemporary fears, right? These are the things that are scary in real life. And I think it's really important that this movie has these types of things in it, because it's a good juxtaposition to that sort of like fear and terror of just like a guy with a knife murdering people, right? That's a very like in your face kind of terrifying thing. It's a practical thing, right? It's like a visceral, like someone's murdering you. But these other things, you can't like formalize them that way. They're fears and they're terrifying things that are just in the culture, right? And I think it's really cool that this movie has both of those pieces. It's not just a guy with a knife killing people. It's other stuff that's just as harmful and just as terrifying. So anyway, the dad goes to investigate all these inmates that have apparently been scattered on the highway. Dad disappears. The kid can't find his dad. He's got his dad's hunting rifle. He finds a police officer just dead in the grass, and he's just like, doesn't know what to do. I mean, this is like a young kid. Kind of pokes the cop with the butt of the knife. The cop responds, kind of reaches out. He's not dead. And the cop's like trying. The cop just says, run. He just says, run. And the kid screams out, Dad, Dad. I like how he says daddy. Like, it's a really terrifying scene of vulnerability, youth, really good lighting, the woods, the bus crash, the smoke, the fog, it's the quiet. It's all really, really good. And the kid kind of makes his way onto the bus. And Sartain pops up and says, don't shoot. And the kid accidentally shoots him in the shoulder, right? Like, again, like guns, right? Gun violence, guns everywhere, kids with guns. What the hell do you think is going to happen? So Sartain gets shot. The kid runs away, jumps in the car, turns on the car. Michael Myers is in the car, grabs the kid, murders the kid. Yeah, no, that's sad. Kills the kid. And everybody's dead. They're playing the Back to the Future pinball machine. He says, don't need no credit card to ride this train. So, I forget this guy's name, but he's an actor. He's been in a lot of stuff. And he gets the call for this accident, and he goes to investigate the scene, and he shows up. He says, Sheriff's Department. He reports on the officer down, sees the bus, the cop, officer down, inmates are gone, Myers is gone. And he kind of says, whoo, because he sees this brutally murdered, the kid's dad, just like neck snapped, brutally murdered, head is like off his neck, like twisted all the way back. And then he opens the back of the bus door and he sees Sartain like bleeding out on the floor. And he says, I've been shot. And did he escape? Did who escape? Who the hell do you think? October 31st. All right, so we get the graveyard scene again, right? The reporters now are they're interviewing the grave keeper, And then she takes him to the Judith Myers tombstone, our beloved daughter, Judith Myers. And they sit down in front of the tombstone. They kind of look at it. And they start to kind of exposition what happened in the original film. We see the clip from the original movie. And Michael Myers is also here at this moment, watching them sit in front of the tombstone. He's off behind a tree, just like looking at them. So we get this cool kind of throwback scene from the original film, the actual footage of Judith getting murdered by Michael. And Aaron, the reporter, is sort of dramatically narrating the events with his British accent. The graveyard keeper kind of glances over and sees this figure sort of standing there behind the tree, just sort of watching, and they don't do anything. All right, so the police are at the hospital staying with Dr. Sartain, and he's not sure what happened, but he looks at the police officer looks at the list. Looks at patients. Michael Myers is one of the patients that escaped. 40 years to the day. Michael Myers loose on Halloween night in Haddonfield. We're going to have a circus. You're darn right you are. What are we going to do? Cancel Halloween? Yeah. Yes, you are. As we all know, stuff like that can be canceled. It has been. Oh my. Yikes. And so now the reporters sort of arrive at a gas station to gas up the car, and the mask is in the trunk, as well as all of their case files. And guess who's also here? A blurry figure in a white jumpsuit. And the woman goes into the gas station, asks if he wants anything from the shop, and there's this weird Resurrection Church van sort of just staring at them. He gives her the peace sign, and she looks like, what? She kind of glances sideways. Where's the loo? Excuse me? And we see Michael Myers just just murdering someone just in broad daylight in the shop through the window. No one's even paying attention. And so she goes into the bathroom, this gross gas station bathroom, and bathrooms are never good places to go in Halloween movies, and the stalls are just so gross. And she's just absolutely disgusted by them. And she finds one that's relatively clean and uses it. And then the door opens. Someone else walks in. And it's clearly Michael Myers. He's now got like the mechanic's jumpsuit on. And he kind of slowly makes his way, opening each door. And she's just sitting there going to the bathroom. Again, vulnerability, right? The bathroom scenes are scary because it's a very vulnerable place to be. And this person makes his way over in front of her stall now. And she sees him standing there. She realizes it's like a tall male figure, menacing, kind of looking in through the door. And he tries to open it. She says, "Someone's in here, excuse me." So again, that's a very real fear and terrible thing. And so Aaron now goes to pay for the gas and notices that the shop attendant's murdered, just dead. Oh, that's brutal. His jaw is just dislocated down onto the table. Just that's a creepy ugh. And Aaron starts poking around. He's like, "What happened in here? What happened to that guy?" He's like, "Oh God, that guy's dead." Hears a noise, sees a dead body. he's like, what's like, he's still confused. He just saw the dead attendee. This guy's in a pool of blood, and he's like, what's going on here? Like, I'd be running out of there screaming. And so a hand appears over the door and drops something onto the floor, and she slowly realizes that it's teeth. And then he starts like basically trying to get into the stall, and she sort of immediately just sort of starts to crawl under the door. I don't know, it's weird, I guess. But she doesn't get very far, and Myers grabs her. Oh God, it's gross too, because like she's on this gross bathroom floor, and she kind of bangs her head on the toilet, and she kicks him, and she tries to sort of get into another stall, and she's just screaming, help, help. And then Aaron busts in, and he's like, Michael. And he smashes Michael in the head with a tire iron or a crowbar, and kind of fights him for a second, but he's no match for Michael Myers. And Michael Myers just smashes his face against the wall and kills him immediately. And the other reporter grabs the crowbar. And Myers is like using Aaron to like smash into the stall at this point. And there's his bloody head just comes through the door, and he just throws him like a rag doll. And she's just cowering in the corner with this crowbar, and Aaron's just like bleeding to death in the corner. It's a very brutal shot, and Myers just kind of chokes her, and that's it. And he just casually walks over to their car and opens the trunk and reclaims his mask. Mask goes on, and we're off. It's a cool shot. And so the transformation is complete. Mask looks really good in this one. It's very scary. And now we move on to whatever happens next. And so Laurie now here, she's in her house making some milk, and she kind of catches the news, and of course she hears that, you know, he escaped, the transport went down, and she immediately goes into like Rambo mode, right? Gets her knife, gets her ammo, gets her security system set up, pushes a button, and her entire kitchen island sort of moves away and reveals this crazy, awesome like basement dungeon that she's sort of got set up, which we saw I forget her daughter's name, but we saw her daughter, Allison's mother, helping Laurie build that when she was younger. And of course, Allison's mom drives a Mini Cooper in their nice suburban, house. So Allison's mom arrives home, and I gotta try to remember her name. The house is quiet and empty, and the back door is kind of slightly open a little bit, and puts the groceries on the counter, and she's got a little Keurig machine, and kind of a bottle of Metamucil on the island. Laundry, half folded laundry on the table, and she's just sort of like, anyone home? Anyone here? What's going on, guys? Anybody home? And no one is home. Karen, right? Her name's Karen, of course. And so Laurie breaks into her house, basically pretends to like kill her, like gotcha, like just to show her how easy it is to get into her house. The dad knows jujitsu. Laurie's not even listening. She's like, the bus crashed. Where's Allison? We need to get out of here now.
So Karen and Laurie argue, and they don't want to listen to her. And she's trying to tell them that Michael Myers has escaped. He's on his way. We have to hunt him down and kill him. And they're just like, no, get out. And Karen just says, get out, go, get out. And so the sheriff, responds to the murders at the gas station. 5 people dead, 4 people dead at the gas station. And Michael Myers is just on his way, unstoppable. Laurie is there. She sort of connects. She sort of locks eyes with the police officer, Frank, and he kind of stares at Laurie for lingers. He lingers on Laurie for a moment. And so we learn now that Frank was there that night 40 years ago. And he's trying to tell the sheriff, he's trying to tell the head honcho that we got one order of business. We have to hunt this guy down. You don't understand. Like, again, it's just sort of like no one believes anybody about how terrible it's going to be. And so now it's Halloween night, right? It's nighttime now. We got firecrackers going off, scares, tricks and treats, kids dressed up as costumes, pirates, and then the classic kids bumping into Michael Myers. And he's just roaming. He's just roaming. We get the music. It's a great scene. He's just kind of walking through the night. I like it. And it's interesting that we get more of sort of following him from behind his shoulders and less of like first person stuff. I guess they kind of went away from the first person stuff in this movie, which is, I think it works, So he makes his way over to a tool shed and he finds a hammer, grabs the hammer. And he's just like in someone's backyard, and we get a movie within the movie. People are always watching things on TV. And so another sort of a scene, we see this scene all the time too. There's a person in their kitchen making a sandwich. Michael Myers just casually walks into the kitchen and just brutally off camera, we just see the table shaking. We just sort of murders this person who's making this sandwich. We see like the chair fall down, and he drops the hammer and just picks up the knife she was using. And he's like, I'll take this knife. And now we see her, bloodied and dead on the table. Curlers still in her hair. Oof, and we hear a baby crying. That's pretty rough. That's pretty horrible. And he kind of makes his way over to the baby's crib. Just kind of ignores it. And he just kind of walks out the front door. It's kind of cool. It's almost like all that's like one long shot. Is that entire thing? Actually, I think it is. That's actually a really cool shot now that I'm watching it. Like, just one long shot from the moment he bumps into the kids, and then he just walks back into the backyard, grabs the hammer, murders the mom, grabs the knife, goes out. It's really cool to sort of see that in all one big shot. And so then he observes like a couple getting into their car, I guess, to go out. And it's like a doctor and a nurse, and they're on their way to like a Halloween party. I think they play a big role in the second movie too. So he leaves them to go to the party, and he walks up to the front porch of the house, right next to the house where he just brutally murdered that new mother. And he just kind of looks in the window, and it's a great shot. We see his face in the window. It's creepy. That was what I always loved about him, is like he's everywhere, right? Like he's the fear. He could be at your window right now looking in, right? Like that's what's so interesting about him as a character in these movies. And then we see him sort of make his way. So the camera stays put in the front window. We see him through the side window make his way to the backyard. The camera is still exactly where it was, and we see this woman in the house just kind of moving through her home, talking on the phone. She kind of looks out the front window now. She's right where the camera is, and we see Michael Myers now in the house right behind her. It's a great shot, right? Like, there's a lot of cool camera stuff in this movie. Oh, and he just smashes her right through the neck. It's so instant, like, and brutal. Um, all right, and so now we cut to the kids and their Halloween adventures, and the Bonnie and Clyde with the twist is that they sort of gender swapped, which is cool. And so now we're at this Halloween party, which looks pretty awesome. And it's a great song too. And they're dancing at the gym, and it's a little more tame than some of the parties that we saw in some of the other movies where they were just like out in the woods in a barn, like getting high and having sex with everybody. This is more of like a controlled high school party type of thing. All right, so she gets a phone call from her friend who is babysitting, just like in the original movie, right? I love how she has it listed as grandmother. Like, they're talking about the Kazam. Or they're gonna meet up at the and this kid Julian's great. And he's they're talking about browser history and smoking weed. It's a really good, like, that kid's a good actor. We used to be friends, and it's good. It's very modern. And there's another movie within the movie. They're watching a scary movie on TV, right? Vicky, her name's. She asks, he asks her to leave the door open, and she puts him to bed. Oh, you're my favorite kid I babysit, and Julian says I like you too. It's cute. And he's kind of trying to fall asleep, and he kind of looks over at his closet, and the closet door is kind of open. And we cut back to the party. Yeah, the party. Everybody. Oh, that mask is fun, isn't that? That's a weird thing. Cheerleaders are doing a routine. The DJ is like DJing, and everybody's dancing and having a good time. I see a sailor costume. Maybe that's Steve from Chips Ahoy, Scoops Ahoy. Allison is sort of observing her boyfriend. Oh, observing her boyfriend kissing someone else. That's not good. Uh, Drama. Teenage love drama. So he's got a flask, and he's being like a real dick about it. Oh, he takes her phone and throws it in the Jello, and he says, "You gonna get that, or you want me to get it?" Wow. Yeah, they go from really like super cutesy, like best buddies, to like really like messed up really fast. and she leaves her phone in the Jello mold. Meanwhile, Laurie is just like cruising around town, listening to the police radio, like scanning for Michael Myers. Like, doesn't she know? I feel like she should just know where he's gonna be, right? Like, he's gonna be in somebody's house, like in the middle of Haddonfield. Not sure why she's like on the outskirts of town. Then here we have Vicky washing a giant knife. She's just cleaning up after the evening and taking out the trash. Like stuff you're supposed to do, I guess. I guess. I don't know. Another creepy, like outside the window scene. And then her like friend, I guess, companion shows up. He has like a pumpkin and a horse. He brings a little pumpkin with heart eyes. And they start making out. And they kind of hear a noise from upstairs. And so Vicky asks her Paul, is it probably not Paul, but she asks him to go check it out. And it is Julian. He says, I saw someone in the hallway standing out beside my door. Dave. This kid's great. I really love this kid. He said Dave first. He said Dave. The kid knows. The kids always know. You got to listen to the kids. The boogeyman is in this house. Don't check it out, Vicky. And she's sort of trying to scare Julian. You fucking kidding me? And meanwhile, Dave is outside smoking. And he just sort of glances off into the darkness. Sort of sees something and he sort of goes to investigate. We see some clothes hanging on the clothesline. I don't know, folks. 2018 clotheslines, I guess, maybe. But you got to have the clotheslines, I guess, right? You got to have the laundry in the breeze, right? So he goes back to like the back shed, notices the shed door is open, and sort of investigates. And he's like, sick. He sees something in there and he's like, sick, dude. Now, when he finds a motorcycle and he just revs it up, and he's just like revving this motorcycle. Oh, Jesus. And then it falls over. And then Julian asks Vicky to close the closet door. And she tries to close it, and it doesn't close. And she slams it a couple of times, and then she opens it. And there he is in the closet. Oh shit! Julian runs. It's so hilarious. And Vicky's like fighting this guy. Oh, and she's got socks and she slips on the hardwood. And she's cut up a little bit, and Michael Myers gets her. Oh no. She screams for help. And she tells Julian to run. He tells him, don't go up there, you're going to get killed. And Michael Myers pulls her back into the room and just starts stabbing her. It's so sad. And he says, fuck this, and he grabs a knife. It's a good shot of Myers. His face is kind of blurry. All right, so the police scanner, they get a domestic disturbance call, and Laurie spins, tears off into the night. This is a really cool throwback, too, here. We get the masks from Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. The silver shamrock masks kind of make a comeback in this trilogy as kind of a little throwback to the original. So that's cool. We see like the witch and the pumpkin and the skeleton head. So Frank, the police officer, shows up at the location, and it's just, kids running around, trick-or-treating, having fun. And he gets out of his car and he kind of walks around a little bit to investigate the scene. Goes around to the back. Sort of slow, kind of like notices the door's open. It's very quiet. He announces his presence. And he enters the house and kind of investigates, and it's very quiet. Officer Hawkins. And he's sort of just like making his way through the house with his gun drawn. Some music kind of kicks up, and then here comes Laurie. She's tearing through the town. She makes it there. She's just screaming to everybody, get out of here now. Get inside. Get out of here. She's got her gun out. She's kind of like wild and crazy, right? She's just telling everybody to get out of here, get inside. She knows exactly what's going down. And Frank makes his way up to Julian's room. He kind of bursts in. And he observes a figure covered in a sheet, like a ghost, I think. Ooh, it's creepy. There's like a ghost sitting in a chair, like, good throwback to the original when Myers puts on the ghost costume. But now we have someone underneath this ghost costume with two little eye holes cut out. It's creepy, and there's a pumpkin in the fish tank, right? It's Dave's pumpkin with the hard eyes. And Frank gets a little closer and closer and closer. He pulls the sheet, and it's Vicky, dead. Bloody. Laurie looks up and she sees Michael Myers in a reflection in a window. And she shoots the mirror, and it was a mirror that she shoots. And Frank sees Michael too, and he says, Michael! And he sort of follows him out. And Laurie is just like stalking him, and Frank starts to find all these bodies, and he finds Dave stabbed up against the wall. Classic, like we don't even see that. We've seen it enough. We just see the aftermath. Laurie finds him. She shoots him right in the shoulder. Oh, Dave's little tattoo. So Laurie is sort of pursuing Michael Myers through the shadows, and Frank comes up behind her. Jesus Christ, Frank! All right, so now it's Laurie and Frank, and they're kind of together, and they both have their guns out, and they're both looking for him. And The police, the larger police force shows up now to investigate. But, Vicky's dead, Dave's dead. Julian ran out, so I guess he survived, which is good. So yeah, the police are here arriving, investigating, body bags, the whole nine. And they bring Sartain. They bring the psychiatrist. And they're like, you tell us, you're his doctor, It's like the classic Sam Loomis sort of setup. Maybe with a twist later, we'll see. He only knows how to keep moving and how to keep killing. And he'll keep killing and killing unless he's captured. So they kind of they tell him to sit there and they go talk about the situation. I was sitting still. What do you mean? Laurie's like, what are you doing? Sartain sees her and immediately comes over, and he's kind of fascinated by her. You're the new Loomis. I really dislike that line in this movie a lot. I just wish she hadn't said that. I think that's sort of silly. You're the new Loomis. We just don't need that line, but whatever. So we find out that Frank was the first responding deputy. And he stopped Loomis from killing Myers that night. And Laurie reveals that she's been wanting him to escape. She's been praying for he escapes every single day so that she can find him and kill him. It's a good scene, but except for that one line. So Allison and her friend, the eternal friend zone guy who actually likes Allison guy, they're walking home in the middle of the street, middle of the night, and he's like comforting her and talking to her. So he says these nice things, and the police car kind of drives past in the background. And then he's like, let's take a shortcut. So we're getting Sartain is speculating about the effects of Michael's crimes on Michael himself, and he seems a little too fascinated by the pleasure that Michael Myers gets out of killing and why he gets that pleasure and what drives him. And so Frank, he has an interesting exchange between Frank and Sartain there. Anyway, and then we cut to a house and more police show up and a lot of police activity here in Haddonfield on Halloween night. So now they're at Karen and whatever her husband's name is house they're at. And they're just like, what? And it's Laurie with the police. And they say it's not safe here. And they're trying to find Alice, and they can't find her because the guy threw the phone. So they're trying to find her, but she doesn't have her phone. So she's with this guy. I forget his name, but she's with him, and they jump over the fence, and dumbest shortcut ever. And he tries to kiss her, and she's like, no, and she leaves him in the yard. Whatever. Please come get him, Michael. Please just come get this guy. So Michael Myers appears behind him. And he thinks it's Mr. Elrod who lives at this house. And he's like, Happy Halloween, Mr. Elrod. He's like talking to Michael Myers. He's like, I really liked her, man. I thought she liked me too, but she didn't like me. And now I suck. And I'm just laying here. I'll piece out of your hair, man. And the light and motion sensors go off. And he starts to get out. It's a good scene. I mean, it's a good scene. See, this kid has no clue what is about to happen. And he's like, where'd you go, man? You're acting super sketch. And now he's like right in front of him, and he's like, what's up? And the lights go off again, and it's creepy. Oh! And then the lights come on again, and he stabs at him, and he starts running. And he starts screaming and running, and he can't get out of the fence, and he's fenced in. And his vampire cape is caught Oscar. His name's Oscar, right? And he's just screaming. Michael Myers is coming at him. This is a good scene. Oh, he stabs him right in the back. Oh, he stabs him right in the back. The steam from his head and body, you can see it in the light. It's cool. It's a good shot. Now it's dark again. The motion lights are off. Allison comes running back. Oscar, she sees him killed up on the fence. He's got like a fence spike like through his mouth. He's just skewered up there, bleeding out. And then she sees Michael Myers for the first time. It's a great moment, like the little guitar riff there. It's really good. And she screams off running into the night. A great shot here of like a low angle shot of like the houses. It's very reminiscent of the original movie as she runs from door to door, like screaming for help. And we get this like guitar riff going. It's good. And she's just banging on windows. Lights are coming on. And Karen and Laurie are freaking out trying to find Allison. And Laurie just screams her name. Karen, stop. Just get in the house. Laurie is like in control of this situation. So finally, someone actually helps Allison, and the police show up with Sartain. And she's like, he killed my friend. She's traumatized. They tell her to get back to their houses, lock their doors. And so they get in the car. They tell everyone to get in their house, stay safe, stay locked inside. Meanwhile, everyone hunkers down inside Laurie's compound. And Allison like immediately goes to the secret lair. What's this? It's my childhood. And Laurie tells Frank, or whatever his name is, Max or whatever, to go down into the basement too. And there's all kinds of like food down here, and there's like weapons and locks and all sorts of stuff. A yo-yo, apparently. This guy's got a yo-yo or some shit. So Laurie has like a whole weapons locker. She's giving everybody accuracy and stopping power. Revolvers never jam. Tactical. He's waited for me. I've waited for him. It's cool. It's cool, like reversal. Like Laurie, I don't know. And then we see Myers like walking in the night with his knife, and we hear the Halloween music. And so they're driving around looking for him. And they find him. Here we go. They find him. They see him. He's just walking. Brace yourselves, he says. And Frank just rams him with the car. Just takes him down. And the police officer yells for him to get back in the car. And Sartain is like, don't shoot him. Frank's like, I'm going to kill him. And Frank says, we see Sartain with his creepy knife is actually a scalpel, and he stabs Frank in the neck. Frank fires and goes down, and Sartain starts stabbing him a couple more times. So it turns out, plot twist, Sartain is actually a bad guy. Literally, his name is Satan. And Frank is left bleeding out from the neck on the street, right next to Michael Myers' body. And now Sartain is like, so this is what it feels like to kill. I want to know what it feels like to kill. Allison is just trapped in the police van screaming. Sartain sort of touches Myers' face for a second, and Allison's trying to get out of the van. She can't really see. And then Sartain pops up in front of the van with the mask on. He's wearing the mask. He drags Myers' body. Allison's kind of like trying to figure out what to do, and Sartain is just like, so wait, how did a Sartain just easily open the door, yet Allison was unable to? So Sartain puts the body of Michael Myers just like in the back seat with Allison and the mask, and she's just like got Michael Myers' body like on top of her. You see, it's an important opportunity to understand the mind of evil. Of course, it is. The reunion. Oh, now he's like sat up in the back seat. Oh God, he like runs over Frank's leg too. I believe Frank survives though. All right, so these two cops are talking about banh mi sandwiches, and he's trying to. And he refuses to like open his mind to anything. This is a I don't know, fresh brownie. I guess that's like a little comic relief scene, I guess. And so Allison's playing to this doctor's. So Allison's trying to like. She's trying to get him to stop the car. And the cops like see another police car down the road. He's eating his banh mi. So Michael wakes up and just immediately starts murdering Sartain. And so murder is happening like right down the road. They're like literally watching it, but they're not really doing anything. So he drags Sartain's body out of the car and just kind of flops him on the side of the road. Allison gets out and starts running, and she runs into the woods. Michael Myers kind of sees him. And these two kind of make their way down the road to check it out. Let's check it out, dude. Put your brownie away. Oh my God. Sartain asks him to say something, and Myers classically just like boot stomps his face into pulp in one fell smash. So much for Sartain. He's just goo now. And the police arrive and they see the sheriff's van there, and they're saying, Hawkins, please respond. Hawkins, please respond, Hawkins. All right, they're going to go check it out. All right, they got their guns, their flashlights, and they're doing hand signals and stuff. Man down. Dispatch. Michael is behind him already, and he's about to take the car. And meanwhile, Laurie is securing her homestead. I guess they went out of the basement now? They went down in the basement and closed the lid, and then she went out of the basement? I feel like there's a continuity error there, but whatever. Oh, no, they had to go down to the basement to get the weapons. That's right. It's cool that Laurie has kind of like her bedroom recreated from when she was a teenager. Like the hat on the wall above the bed, you know, is the same as the hat from the wall above her bed when she was a teenager. So like I think that's all part of the plan though, right? Is to like attract Mike. It's like it's like a cat and mouse game, right? It's cool. So meanwhile, this idiot's just downstairs like yo-yoing. And Myers is now very close. Literally, I think it's funny because like he's kind of a yo-yo. You know, like he's kind of an idiot. And he's kind of looking at these security cameras, and he sort of, picks up a gun, She observes the police car out front, walks outside like an idiot, calls out to the police officers, but remember, I don't know. Any word on Allison, he says? Police car is just dark. Can't tell if there's anybody in there. Oh, he looks in. There's a pumpkin in there. There's like a glowy pumpkin face. Oh, and he opens the door and the cop's just brutally murdered. And he's got the other cop's head in his hands. And he's got the flashlight stuffed up in the guy's. That's great. That's great. Oh, and there's Michael Myers right behind him. And he grabs him and... And he shoots the gun, and Myers is just strangling him. And that guy doesn't last long. Oh, poor cool nerdy geeky dad guy. He's done. All right, so now it's all the shit's hitting the fan. Laurie screams out. Myers hears her and gets alerted. Ray, I guess his name. And Laurie sees him out in the front yard through the window. She locks the Greg's dead. Greg's dead, honey. Sorry. Michael's here. Get downstairs. Go, baby, go. And they kind of look at each other one last time, and Karen goes down into the secret lair. And Laurie stands stalwart at the door, waiting, peering out into the night, gasping. Oh, and then Myers' hands busts through, grabs her face. Oh, he just grabs her, starts smashing her head against the door. Oh, brutal. He's basically got her at this point through the door window. He's choking her, and he's just kind of strangling her, lifts her up off the ground. It's pretty, it's violent. And Laurie's just struggling, and she grabs the shotgun, points it at him. He tries to grab it. Oh, and she fires it and blows some of his fingers off. It's a good shot of her standing at the top of the stairs like that. Sort of survived that attack. All right, so she hits all the outside lights so they can see what's going on. They see Greg. Greg's dead. The two officers are dead. Everybody's dead. Laurie and Karen are down in the basement. Allison's out running through the woods somewhere. And now, like, that for 40 years, you had a plan to, like, stop him, and, like, it was that easy to just break the glass and undo the locks on the front door. But that was, I mean, maybe that was part of the plan. So they're cowering in the basement. They hear Michael Myers' footsteps above. And he's just doesn't care about his blown off fingers. He's just looming in the kitchen. It's a good shot. Like, you can just barely make out the face in the darkness there. It's good. And you hear that sort of like intense guitar sound. And they're sort of tracking him across the kitchen floor. Laurie fires into the ceiling. Sawdust flies through the light. It's a good shot. And he's kind of just like, Karen's kind of cowering. They're holding hands. The camera sort of lingers on their hand holding for a moment. And Laurie says, I need to finish this. And Karen says, I love you, Mom. And Laurie opens the secret door. And she goes up into the kitchen. So now Laurie is sort of making her way through the house with her shotgun looking for Michael Myers. Remember how many times he was like hanging out in the ceiling and he just dropped down behind people, ninja style? I don't know. I don't think he does that here, but. And there's like a closet in the main room, right? Like very reminiscent of the closet from the original film. And Laurie's just like, come out, Michael. Like she just intuitively kind of knows he's in there or thinks he's in there. Pulls out her flashlight. She opens the closet and he's not in there. She hears a sound and spins. Makes her way into another room of the house. There's just like a weird little clock hanging on the wall, ticking. Empty. The room is totally empty except for like a fireplace. We hear the ticking of the clock. It's a nice little nuance to that scene. Oh my. So there's a security button, and as Laurie clears the room and makes sure that the room is empty, she presses this button and like locks the room down, cutting off a place where he might be able to go. It's cool. She like gets it. She knows how this guy works, and she is sort of like she's like setting up something, right? So we're seeing these grates kind of fly down every time she clears a room. Oh, and Allison bumps into one of Laurie's weird practice mannequins. It's a creepy scene out in the middle of the night with all these weird mannequins. But it's grandmother's house, so she shouldn't. So Allison just sort of screams into the night. So she's struggling to get to where she's trying to go. Meanwhile, Laurie is kind of making her way through her house, and she sees some blood stains. So she kind of clears out the first floor, starts making her way upstairs. It's a good scene, though. It's like tense and creepy. Blood is kind of on the wall, so she can kind of see maybe where he went and kind of track him a little bit. So we're in the sort of bedroom that looks like her childhood bedroom a little bit, and she's kind of investigating that space, and she determines that it's empty and locks it down. She kind of pauses for a moment and sort of smiles like she knows what's going on. Like she's like, I know what's going on here. This is a cool scene. So she goes into this upper room and there's all these mannequins in there. I guess maybe that's like her bedroom sort of, but like lots of mannequins, lots of kind of shadowy corners, and it looks like an open door onto a balcony or something. Some blood stains going into the closet, literally like the exact same closet that she was in the original movie. So she gets a little bit closer and closer to this closet. She sees blood on the door. She opens it and it's Greg. It's Greg in there. So Myers stowed Greg's body somehow, some way. I don't know when he did that, but he grabbed Greg's body and threw it up in that closet, and he kind of falls out of it when she opens it. But we don't know where Michael is yet. And Laurie's just kind of like, and she goes back to the closet and opens the other side. Nope, he's not in there. So where is he? It's tense. It's quiet. Like you have no idea where he could be here. But there's one shadowy corner, kind of behind these mannequins. Oh, yep. And he was behind one of the mannequins. He was just standing behind one of the mannequins. And he pops out and starts choking her And she like smashes in his eye a little bit. She grabs her knife, starts slashing at him, and they're fighting it out. She can't really overpower him, and so she just bites his wounded hand like an animalistic move there. And he tosses her out of the upper window, and she rolls off of the house down onto the floor below. Very reminiscent of the original movie, but reversed right now. He looks down at her off of the balcony and sees her laying there. It's a cool reversal of the original film's ending, right? So Allison has at last made it home to her grandmom's house. And she calls out to Mom. And she's calling out to her family. And Michael Myers hears this. And he turns. And when he turns and looks back, Jamie Lee's gone. Laurie's gone. And we get a little diddle-doo trill from the music. So then Karen emerges from the secret lair to see Allison. And she gets Allison down in the basement with her. And we have Michael Myers making his way back through the house. All right, so she closes the secret trapdoor and I like that Karen is wearing a Christmas sweater throughout this whole thing. Like, she just doesn't give a shit about Halloween, right? She like hates it. Right, she just wants it to be Christmas. It's funny that she's wearing a Christmas sweater. All right, so she's telling Allison to be quiet, but they're both in the basement now, and Myers is just kind of listening for them and looking around, trying to find them, and he grabs like a fire brand thing, a poker from the fireplace, makes his way to the kitchen. We just hear kind of like a low heartbeat sound. Doom, 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 doom. And a little bit of his breathing as he sort of stands in the kitchen. And he just like immediately intuitively knows like that the island is hiding this passageway. And so he starts to just violently shake it. And he's just going to rip it off. He's just going to rip through it. So he's just violently tearing through this kitchen island. Karen and Allison are sort of afraid and cowering in the... And then she looks over and she sees this gun with a lightning bolt and the initials KS on it. She grabs it, loads it. Allison's a little bit confused. And he's almost got it. And he finally breaks through it, tips over the island. Karen's screaming, whimpering. Can barely hold the weapon, right? She screams, "Mom, help us. I can't do it," she says. "I'm sorry, I can't do it." And Michael appears. And she immediately snaps, "Gotcha." It's so good. And Laurie appears in the doorway behind him. "Happy Halloween, Michael." The face from the shadow, just like in the original movie. And she fights his ass. And Karen's down there. And Karen and Allison run up out of the basement. Michael Myers does the sit-up move. So it was all kind of like a setup, right? Like it was the plan all along was to feign not being, not knowing what to do. Karen was just faking it basically. So Michael just has her leg now though. She can't quite escape. Allison grabs the knife. She stabs Michael Myers with the knife. As the three generations of Strode women are struggling here against this killer. And they kick him back down into the basement. Laurie hits the trap. Or Karen hits the lever. and the spikes come across, and he's trapped. They got him. They got him in the cage that they wanted him in the whole time, all along. It was a trap all along. So these flame things start lighting up. It's not a cage, it's a trap. So the whole time, this whole plan was to lure him in and trap his ass. Goodbye, Michael. And Laurie throws a flare down into him. And they look down on him as he looks up at them. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. And the whole basement just ignites in flame. The Halloween music kicks up, and he's just standing there, immolated, on fire, burning to death, almost like he's actually literally in the bowels of hell. And the whole place is just now lit up, on fire. Everything's burning. We hear the Halloween music. The whole house, the upstairs too, this whole system of pipes is igniting, flaming the whole house. The whole house is going to burn to the ground. They're going to burn the whole place down. And Michael Myers has nowhere to go. They trapped him. It's a great moment when Karen is like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Like your typical like horror movie heroine. And then as soon as Myers appears, she's like, gotcha. And she just shoots him right in the neck. Like it's a great turn. It's a great twist. It's a little silly that like Karen kind of feigned all that with Laurie the whole movie, like in front of everybody. But like it was for the audience, really. It was to make that moment feel more intense. But so the house burns down. They got Michael Myers burned to death in the basement, or so they think. We get one shot of the stairs, and just everything is on fire. It is just a flaming mess. And the 3 Strode women escape in the back of a passing by pickup truck. Laurie is injured. She's sort of stabbed. They're all kind of bloodied. And Allison holds the knife. Halloween. Cool. That's a good movie. Like, I like that one. I think they did a really good job kind of returning to that story. They really stayed true to the Michael Myers character, which I think was a big problem in the Rob Zombie movies. And there's a lot of interesting layers to that film. I mentioned a few of them as we watched. The idea of like fear, the idea of what we actually should be afraid of, the idea of sort of flipping the idea of the final girl a little bit, the way that women are often portrayed in horror films, sort of flipping that around a little bit. So a lot of reversals, a lot of interesting moves in this. And this is the first of a trilogy, and there's 2 more of these. So next time, we're going to take a look at Halloween Kills. And then we're going to watch on Halloween Day, like the brand new Halloween Ends, which just came out 2 weeks ago. So thank you so much for hanging out for this episode of Screen to Screen. I hope you enjoyed this movie. I thought this one was really, really good. Thanks for supporting the podcast and listening to all these episodes. And until next time, happy Halloween.